The 1960s is a decade when revolution, protests, and cry for social change were widespread. Military movements come and go while civilians clamor for good governance and recognition of rights. The swinging events prevailing during the decade apparently influenced the 1960s fashion. Another factor which transfigured the 1960s fashion is movies, stage performances, and fashion magazines. Through them, the 1960s mod fashions arise. The 60s mod fashion is characterized by diverse styles from head to foot. The 1960s is deemed the decade with multi-faceted fashion look. The early mod fashion 1960s was conservative and classy. The mid-60s mod fashion is chic and stylish. Dresses, during this time, were of shorter hemlines and embellished by assorted stone, sequins, and pearls. The mid-1960s fashion also popularized sexy outfits like bikinis and miniskirts. Meanwhile, comfy casual attires and cool hairstyle overthrow dresses during the late 1960s period. A lot had happened during the 1960s in terms of fashion. There are also fashion icons that set up the trendiest 1960s mod fashion, makeup, and hairstyles. There are many components of the 1960s fashion. But here are 10 fashion components of the 60s which can guide you in achieving a 1960s fashion and look. The early 60s were marked by the classic look. Early 1960s fashion was greatly influenced by the 50s. Ladies still appear in glamorous and full-length dresses. During this era, ladies and even men are going off to have their own clothes tailored. Designers and failovers do have a successful life in the 1960s. Some of the hippest 1960s fashion components during the first quarter of the decade are the pillbox hat and the winkle pickers. The winkle pickers are perfect match for A-line full-length dresses. Winkle pickers are shoes with pointed or sharp-looking toes. This 1960s fashion shoes have a conservative design and color just like how women's dresses. Shoe embellishments are not much part of the trend. The pillbox hat is a small hat worn by women in the 1960s for ornament. Pillbox hats appear small and like a flat crown sitting straight up on the head. Unlike other hats, the pillbox has no brim. The pillbox hat was a modification of the military headgear. But for the 1960s fashion, the pillbox hat was made class and fancy. Common colors of pillbox hats are black and white. Some pillbox hats are plain while others have embellishments like net, sequins, and even pearls. One of the pioneering 1960s fashion icons who used the pillbox hat is the First Lady Jackie Kennedy. Her 1960s fashion pillbox hats were designed by Halston. The pillbox hat was a signature early 1960s fashion. The hairdo during the early 1960s period is likewise conservative. The curls in the 1950s were also carried over. But hair during the early 1960s fashion were shorter and with little less ornamentation. Hair, during this time, looks simple and neat but definitely elegant. The mod makeup also reverberated for several decades until now. The mod makeup is one of the trendiest makeup type. It is characterized by vibrant colors. Natural tones like peach, brown, and tan are used all around the face. The lipstick is also light and easy. The emphasis on the mod makeup is on the eyes. Lashes are detailed, and eyeshadows range from green, blue, and yellow highlighted with white eyeshadow shades. Today, some people use eyelash extensions in bringing back 1960s mod look. A-line full-length dresses also highlighted the early 1960s fashion. Dresses are of close waist, giving emphasis to figure and details to geometric features. Most dresses are conservative both in design and color. The early 1960s fashion dresses are accentuated by large buttons. The mid-1960s fashion was louder and sexier. It is during this time that miniskirts were hot. Pixie and short hairs were also searing fashion. Miniskirts were introduced in the mid-1960s. The pioneering icon for the miniskirts is the supermodel Jean Shrimpton. The love for miniskirts became on the rage after Jean appeared in Melbourne, Australia in a white shift dress with a hemline roughly 3 inches above the knee. From then, women chose to have their own miniskirts and short dresses tailored. Short dresses during this time have little concern about waist lines. Thus, some dresses are straight cut, accentuated by big belts and shimmering embellishments like sequins. The mid-1960s fashion is also best known for the pixie haircut. The first few 1960s fashion icons to have chic pixie hair were Twiggy, Mia Farrow, and Audrey Hepburn. During this period, the mod makeup remained well loved. Meanwhile, the late 1960s fashion is all about comfort and color. The late 1960s fashion is far diverse than the fashion statements of the early quarter of 1960s. Late 1960s are characterized best by bell-bottomed jeans and colorful shirts. Bell-bottomed jeans and pajamas were a hit during this era. The bell-bottomed jeans of the 60s are still hot to this date. However, the modern bell-bottomed pants have tighter bell-like ends. Modern jeans are also of considerable length and not as lengthy as the 1960s bell-bottomed jeans. Colorful and fluorescent shirts and hall-tiered blouses were also part of the 1960s fashion. Dyeing of shirt became prominent during this time. Shirts and blouses appear in bright colors of red, yellow, green, blue, and the like. Outfits are accentuated with bohemian accessories and colorful shoes. For men, the use of colorful shirts and pants was streaming. Leather jackets and vests for both sexes were also a hot 1960s fashion statement. As to the late 1960s hairdo, an icon to look up to is Cher. Cher had a rocked bangs loved by many. Hairdos during the late 1960s are simple and loose. Hair ornaments in the late 60s consists of colorful headbands made from cloth or scarf. Some also have braided hair used as an alternative headband. Late 60s mod makeup are still patronized. But the mod makeup is toned according to style and outfit color.